And we're back. Episode 41. This is our very first Exposé episode, the Exposé of Mikey Sawyer. I am joined with my co-host, as always, Brian Kern.
How do we do?
And we are happy to have guest Catarina Jongeward on the show. How you doing, Catarina?
Hi, guys. Really good. You?
I am good. I'm stoked to have you on. This episode has been a long time coming. A long time. Maybe his whole life, but definitely for us, about 5 months. It's been a process. It's been crazy, and I gotta thank everyone that's come forward with stories about Mikey and speaking to their abuse. It's been a long 2 weeks since we announced that we were going to be doing something like this. This all started as what you would call a petty beef, a war of words. Mikey didn't like our reactions to his stories about Tyler Carter. It came out last year, middle of last year, with some really strange stories about Tyler Carter's abuse, Mikey taking advantage of a relationship, and some questionable gay things were done. He took exception to that. He messaged us, contacted me, and let me know that my podcast sucks, which wasn't really the point of any of that. We did an Instagram live video. We've tried to be very transparent through all of this, through the harassment and the entire process. Mikey's a bad dude. That's one thing that we learned from the beginning of this, and it got a hell of a lot worse. It started off as just a dude that I didn't like, and it turned into something more. We get hit up by people like this. I know him personally. He is everything that you say and more. He is abusive. He is a snake, deserves everything he gets and more. These are people that I've never met that are coming to me with stories about the guy. That confirmed what we knew and what we continued to learn about him. And it wasn't until after I spoke to someone close to him and they alerted me to this. I haven't spoken to him in years. He raped a girl when we were in Australia. That was it for me. I'll never be cool with him. It was at that point when we knew we were dealing with someone who was a predator. This goes beyond disliking someone. This goes beyond a person's character. This is a legit criminal predator that we have in our music scene. After that discussion, I knew he was a bad guy. I knew he was a predator. We found out his dirty secrets and started to speak on them, and that's when the harassment started. He even created an imposter Twitter account to look like ours and started messaging people stupid things like this: give it to me in my ass, by an account that looks like it's my Twitter, but it's not. It's missing 2 letters. That was a poor attempt at slandering us and discrediting us because he knew what we were going to say. That all started, and it escalated into him messaging all our mutuals. He is obsessive. He messaged what must have been every individual mutual follower between your account and his with this message. Mass message. Hey, I just wanted to let you know someone I have a restraining order against is following all my followers, blah, blah, blah. The guys tried to slander us. All these screenshots will be posted afterwards to our Instagram, as we have done with all the other screenshots we've got. After I started getting harassed and trolled from numerous accounts, it's when I started to realize why Mikey's victims do not come forward. It is because Mikey will bully, harass, troll, and threaten anyone who has dirt on him. It's one thing to threaten me. I'm a 33-year-old man. I can handle it. I'm an adult. I'll deal with it. But we're talking about young women when it comes to his victims. If I was a 16 or 17-year-old girl and I'm constantly being threatened by a guy who claims he can sue me or have me thrown in jail, I'm not going to have a good perception of the law. I don't know anything, but he's said enough things that could make me delete my social and have me running off the internet. It's just insanity. Mikey, let's see. We will win this in the court of public opinion. And it's leaving us to our own devices to get out in front. Whoever controls the narrative wins. That's Mikey in response to everything I've been putting out about him. It's been a shit show for about 2.5 weeks. It's only gotten worse. He will go to extreme lengths to silence anyone who wants to speak on him, and he will make sure that nobody gets to hear about his abusive past. That's why we find it so important to speak on these things today. Here we go. I actually have a homie that's hacking his iCloud and says he's hiding something because he has this insane firewall security typical for people with something to hide. I don't even know how to set up a firewall. I don't even have antivirus. He's gonna get in and delete all his shit and post tranny porn. Interesting.
Which he
all
does.
I don't know what the point of the tranny porn is at all. All of this just to shut us up so that we don't speak to his victims and we don't speak to his abusive past. First off, Catarina, I want to know your thoughts. What do you think about the recent harassment that we've got from him? Does that fall in line with what you know about him?
It's the thing about it is Mikey, the whole time that I've known him, he has the behavior and the track record of making many different accounts, many different numbers, many different avenues to harass people as much as possible. He will go out, he will make every single effort that he possibly can to make sure everyone is on his side. If this means manipulation, gaslighting, lying, whatever he can do to make himself look better so that people take away the light as far as from his actual factual actions. We're not talking about opinion. We're not talking about feelings. We're talking about factual behavior that does to other people. As far as the whole tranny thing, that was random.
I don't know what that's supposed to be.
Like, that's so random. It's just, and that's what I'm saying is like he'll not only make super low blows, and he'll like not only does he make super low blows, but he will make up anything he possibly can, as I just said a little bit ago, to just make things just look absolutely ridiculous. And it's almost to the point that he makes it look like it's almost like where it's not even believable, where people are just like, okay, I don't even know what direction as far as my process to go about this. So just like that being disclosed, I'm just like, that doesn't even make any sense. That has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with anything.
I think it's important to point out that not just Mikey, but a lot of people that exhibit this type of behavior are sociopaths to like the umph degree, and that is without a doubt like the most sociopathic behavior possible is when you can flip something like that and make it this just weird, all about me kind of thing, which he does, and that's probably where the weird tranny porn comes from. These like altruistic weird jabs that he likes to take.
It's super strange. I have other screenshots of the guy talking like you alluded to before, that he makes fun of people's looks and does things like that. The screenshots that we've been posting are just pertaining mostly to him trying to discredit and slander us. I'm not a victim by any stretch. Don't get it confused. We've been harassed for the past couple weeks, but that only proves the pattern of bullying that Mikey has gone to silence anyone that tries to speak out on him. Tonight isn't about canceling. It's about shining a big spotlight on abuse in our scene. It's something we've spoke about since episode 1. It's something that bothers all of us, and it's eventually going to kill out all our favorite genres and our jobs. It's going to be bad. It's a plague, and it's ruined our favorite bands. It's ruined our favorite people. It's not okay for predators to have a platform or a fan base. It's dangerous. Tonight is about empowering victims to have the strength to speak on these allegations, because we have witnessed firsthand the harassment, the bullying, and the overall suppression that Mikey Sawyer will resort to keep his abuse a secret and continue on with his failing music career. Now, I don't say failing as an insult. It legitimately is. And he's holding on to relevancy. This is something a little weird here. The ultimate W. Basically saying, okay, faking your death isn't illegal. I'm kind of an expert on the topic, but basically the act itself is not illegal. You can fake your death all you want. I don't know why he's trying to fake his death. I know his music career's got issues. He has no bandmates. He publicly thanked his bandmates, but as he says here, that shit's all a facade. They don't exist. This is what alarms me. The ultimate W, as he puts it. I've also thought of holding fake tryouts, saying I'm stepping down, or fake my own death and move to Germany. That's really not a ton of leeway here. It's really strange. I've suicidal my whole life. That's just a fact of life for me. It's sooner. He talks about this ultimate W that he plans to release a teaser video tonight. He knows this is happening, and he's still trying to get publicity for his band. In his words, he wants to capitalize off the press of this. It's pretty sick. It's disgusting. It's Mikey Sawyer. He is the bully and the victim. I've never seen this before in somebody, where they will bully until it's ineffective, or they back themselves into a corner, and now they're the victim. Now it's woe me. Now it's my poor upbringing. Now it's not my accomplice that has multiple troll accounts to harass my victims. It's my autistic roommate now. He's only autistic when it benefits Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we even begin with this?
It's also
Go ahead, Catarina.
Mikey has also disclosed to me. He literally said at one time, and I remember we were in the bedroom. He was like, "I for sure am a sociopath, and I am narcissistic." And I was like, "Oh my god, what?"
Yeah.
So he's aware and still doesn't get help or change.
No, and we got him help. When I was still in the military, when he was my dependent, I gave him the opportunity in which he did take. He went outpatient at a treatment facility in which he very much not only wasted the time and the money, he disclosed to me and made fun of the treatment itself, because he's like, "I'm not even trying. I'm intentionally lying to them. I'm using my soft voice so that I sound more caring." And if you really look at it, the people that surround him that are in favor of Mikey to any degree, it's because he decides to treat them nicely. He decides to be nice only to people that are going to be on his side. If it's to anyone to any degree, he will do like as we're seeing for itself. But he knows how to play the game.
I've witnessed that firsthand. I've seen the way that he's nice to people who consider themselves fans of his band, and he manipulates and uses them. He's been using a fan for the past 3 weeks to spy on our profiles and get even with us. To start this off, to clarify things, could you state what your connection is to Mikey? Because we know it, but the people don't.
Yes. I was married to Mikey back in, I believe, 2016 or 2017. We were legally married for a year. We dated for 3 months before we got married. And then actually 3 months after we were married, we were legally separated. And then our finalization on our divorce was a year later.
So you are the ex-wife of Mikey Sawyer, the infamous one that people said has never spoke about this. Or when I asked someone who you were, they said no one's heard from her. She's never spoke about this stuff. It's like she went into hiding. We've never seen her. I was really shocked to see you reply back to me. I'm stoked that you're able to come and speak this. You kept reiterating that you've never been able to tell this story before. Why is that?
On a personal reasoning, it was because I was in the military and I didn't want to hinder my security clearance, and I didn't want it to ruin my job. I didn't want it to ruin my reputation. It was a protective thing. On the other, and I was also, as far as legal reasons, even though Mikey was very much in the wrong, and even the city itself identified him. For example, like the city itself actually pressed charges against Mikey for domestic violence, not myself. But going back, as far as legal reasons, because he has a behavior, as far as making up all these lies and all this type of stuff, I didn't want to cause any drama where, he might come at me for a legal reason to any degree, even though, of course, there's nothing behind it. He tries so hard, in which we've even seen itself, where he put out a VPO in regards to you, Matthew, and he's saying that you're a stalker and all this type of stuff. So that just shows the lengths that he will go to. And I wanted nothing to do with it. not whatsoever. And I just rather have stayed quiet, even though the story we're about to uncover is absolutely insane itself. I just didn't want to deal with it.
Understandable. Brian, I had cut you off.
No, I mean, what I was going to add earlier, you know, we were talking about the victim mentality and how you can easily manipulate people. We were talking about his roommate, right? The fan that has been stalking our accounts for the last 2 weeks. Again, the people in these situations, in these power positions, they are seeking this type of like validation, right? They already know they have the credibility, the fame, whatever comes along with it. They're able to manipulate people for that reason. And, you know, it's something to sit back and really look at. You experienced something kind of early on into the marriage that sparked that for you. Can you highlight that for us? Just because I feel like a lot of people don't recognize like when people tend to break, and your relationship was fairly young. So when you really noticed that it happened.
I would say the beginning signs of this whole ordeal was actually right before we got married. When I was first deployed, when I came back, he actually cheated on me while I was deployed. The girl actually reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, I figured out who you were. While you were gone, Mikey and I did stuff," and like basically she was ashamed. Um, and Mikey basically bashed her after that, proceeding that because when I confronted him, he then was just like, "Oh, she's just a fat bitch. You know, she's stupid. She's a whore. She's all these things." And I was like, "Okay, like first of all, you know, she forward and she and herself apologized because she wasn't aware, and second of all, for Mikey not only to not take the responsibility of his actions, he proceeded to be disrespectful towards her, make fun of her, slander her, and then that's when the beginning started happening. And when I first came, also, so when I first came back, also from deployments, literally the day I came back, he picked me up from base, brought me home because I wanted to start putting my belongings away, and it was immediate interrogation. He was like, "Who did you fuck?" So just backwards. When I deployed, it was all male crews. We're talking about like 27 people crew, and I was the only female. And so he was like, "Who did you fuck? Who did you cheat on? Like you're a fucking whore." And I'm like, "Hold the fuck up. Hold up. Where is this coming from?" And it's because when you're a cheater yourself, you tend to blame. So he was making all these accusations and interrogating, and he was in my face. And my chief actually called me while we were in the kitchen, and he's like, "Hey, Jongeward." He's like, "You got to get back to base. We got to turn in the tools. We got to check them in so that the next crew can take them." I was like, "Okay." And while I was on the phone with him, Mikey was standing over me because I was kind of slanted like this on the thing, and he was like over me, and he was beyond pissed because it was a male, and he was whispering me. He's like, "Who is that? Who is that? Is that one of the guys you fucked?" Da da da. And like, and he was getting so belligerent, but also, of course, in a very quiet tone, that I started to kind of shake in my voice, and my chief could tell, and he was like, "Are you okay, Jungwort?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'll be there as soon as I can." And I got the phone, put it to my side on the counter. Mikey was still like in my face, accusing me of all these things, and my phone lit up, and it was a text from him. He's like, "You need to get to base right now." He's like, "Something isn't right." He's like, "I can tell your tone of voice." So Mikey again saw the phone. And he was like, "Oh, is he texting now? Is that what you guys do after you fuck?" Like he was just saying all these type of random things. And so I was like, "Mikey, get the fuck off me." And he wouldn't get off me. And I was just like, "Oh my God." So I took a cutting board and I hit him across the face with it, in which he actually collapsed on the ground. And I ran. I hauled ass. Now, thankfully, I was still in my uniform and I still had my boots. So thankfully, I was still dressed to impress to get back on base. And I ran there. And when I got on base, my chief immediately was like, "Okay, something was in your voice. What was going on?" And I was trying to keep my composure to basically lie now to my chief to say everything is okay. But I broke down and he was freaking out. So he brought me to another chief, which was a female. And he was like, "Can you tell her what happened?" And basically, they're both in the same room. And I was like, "I'll just tell both of you so you guys are aware." I said, "This is what he just did." And da da da. And they're like, "This is not okay." So they said, "We're going to come with you. We're going to escort you to your house. You're going to pack your shit. We're going to make sure he doesn't come after you. and then you're coming on base. He is not allowed on base because we'll make sure security doesn't let him, and we're going to hide you in a dorm for your safety. So that's when the first of the domino effects started happening.
Started off hot.
Jesus Christ. When did you first notice there was a problem with Mikey, whether it be an incident or something he says, or you notice something's off or screw loose?
It was kind of funny. We were, when he was still living in Colorado, we were actually FaceTiming because we would FaceTime before we went to bed and leave it on all night. And I just remember I was laying there and I was like, you remind me of my dad, and I don't know why. Now, my father was sexually, physically, and verbally abusive towards me. And it was almost like a red flag popped in my mind, and it was already identifying things before I actually consciously identified it. Because Mikey was just kind of like saying some things that were a little bit off, and he kind of, because when it came to Michael Skaggs, his roommate, because Michael Skaggs and at the time his girlfriend, they all lived in the same house, and Mikey would just talk mad shit about them all the time. And he would disclose very personal things about them too. And I was just like, that is just straight up disrespectful. Like, he was always talking shit about them. And since he was in the basement, he was like, they can't hear me, so they don't know. So he was just always saying disrespectful things. And I started seeing that disrespect initially. But I was just kind of like, well, maybe he's just really mad at them. And of course, he was most likely lying to me at the same time. So I kind of felt that sense of empathy for him, where I was just like, that kind of makes sense, because if his roommates are being jackasses towards him, I can understand, because he made it seem like Skaggs and his girlfriend were just doing nothing but just fucking making his life a living hell while living there.
From what I know, quite the opposite.
Right.
Does Mikey have a drug problem?
No, Mikey, when I've been with him, he never did drugs, and he never drank. Like, he very rarely drank. So he never had, when we were together, he never had a drug or alcohol problem whatsoever.
And you said you weren't aware of any abuse that he may have endured as he was younger, right? Because oftentimes, if you're a victim of the abuse, you then lay it on, right?
Yes. So I've met his mother, and I've met his little sister, and I've met the grandparents. And I think I met the mother's boyfriend. But the mother was never a fan of Mikey. And Mikey didn't really voice anything to me as far as abuse. He just never got along with his mom. He never respected his mom. And the only thing that Mikey told me as far as kind of traumatic was the whole domestic violence thing that happened, because I'm going to cover that now, is the domestic violence charge that happened way back in the day that had the whole roundabout that happened with Sumerian records and all that type of
the domestic violence that got him dropped from Sumerian records.
Yes. So what happened was that, from what Mikey told me, is that the grandmother has a boyfriend who is a drunk and also was abusive towards the grandmother. And Mikey would witness it quite a bit. And one night, I think either Mikey got fed up or the grandfather went too far, and Mikey proceeded to protect his grandmother and fight off the grandfather. But the weird twist about the story is, I would understand as a male if you're protecting someone and you're just doing everything in your power to get them away and kind of guard. But he bit a chunk of the guy's face off. So that's disturbing. He bit a chunk of the face off.
Like, bit his cheek
Yeah.
and pulled
Yep.
meat out.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's not sane. That's not what normal people do to protect another person.
No.
Any physical threats towards you ever? I know that
This man has tried so many times to kill me, but he never fully went all the way through.
I was gonna say,
God,
what about
that's
you?
a fucked up sentence.
What about you, Matt? Has he come at you online via trying to harass?
He hasn't threatened to kill me to me. He's threatened violence to me to other people, and he's threatened to hack my cloud. He's looked up public record on me and knows about my house. Couldn't get my address correct. He did file that restraining order, as Catarina mentioned, and we documented this on the Instagram. Him and his roommate, James Adams, filed a order of protection against me, a restraining order. Mind you, I am 6.5 hours away from them. I have not been to Oklahoma in over a year and a half. But yeah, he filed it. It got thrown out. I never knew anything about it, so I didn't show up to court. He didn't show up to court. Claims he was in North Carolina, quote, too busy making hits, is what he told me. That's not true. He didn't travel to North Carolina at all. But yeah, it was thrown out. He tried to file an emergency order, and it was thrown out because there was no basis. He literally did all that and wasted the court's time so he could get a screenshot and make it look like he did have a restraining order against me, even though he misspelled my last name. Just a small shred of the harassment we've got.
If it makes you feel any better, our divorce day, he never showed up to court. He was just like, I'm not going to come because I'm fighting for our marriage. And he never showed up. So I went in front of the judge. It took 2 seconds. She's like, is he not here? I was like, nope. She's like, okay, stamp, you're divorced. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, for a guy that has all these hollow threats about legal action, calling the cops. This is stuff he's told me about suppressing the information we're going to talk. He claims all of this is slander and defamation of character, which it is not. And it's the same threats that he tells his victims. Anyone who knows anything about him, he threatens to call the cops, legal action, get sued, everything. He doesn't threaten a lot of physical violence, although I've seen him threaten to throw someone off a balcony. There's a video of him from back in the day choking an ex-bandmate or something.
On YouTube.
Yeah, just some weird stuff. He did never threaten me with violence, but I think he knows that would have just been an instant call to the cops and he would have been screwed. Yep. Would you consider Mikey a manipulative person?
Oh, he's beyond that. It's actually quite amazing and impressive of how he has so much effort that he puts forward to be a mass manipulator. Not only a mass manipulator, but as far as, of course, an abuser. And, he tries to gaslight every single person that comes across him if it's not a positive outlook on him. It's absolutely absurd.
We've talked about it a couple times because we've gone through this shit behavior from him. He plays the bully and the victim. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you were the first one that said that or who came up with that term, but it just really hammered it home. Like, I've received 3 different calls for a truce or some sort of half-assed apology. It's just been strange. If you have this legal case on me, if I've done wrong legally and you think I'm criminally wrong and should be charged and or sued, you don't need to form a truce with me because you already got me in your pocket, right? Like, none of it makes sense. Would you consider Mikey a violent person?
Absolutely. He was very violent towards me, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Sexually, he was not. Sexually, that was never an issue.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into that one. Has Mikey been?
We can all imagine, I'm sure. I just poor guy.
Oh God.
Hey, we did need some comedy in this show. I believe the show did need a little bit of laughter, a little bit of livelihood. We got some.
I just want to say this funny story. He
Oh no.
He one time put on a dick extender.
Ew.
Yeah.
A what?
He put on it's like a rubber dick extender. It's kind of like a penis that's rubber, and you just put it on top of your own penis to kind of make it longer. And I was like, what is that? Get it away from me. That is so weird. That is so awkward. Like, don't ever show me that again. Just never. And he's like, well, I thought you would like it, so it just, be better. And I'm like, I don't like it. I mean, he's small, but I mean, that's weird. That's so weird.
And to think he could have just got a lifted truck.
No, because he didn't have a car, because he couldn't afford one, because he was a broke bitch and I paid all the bills.
A zing. You know, I just wanted, I was trying to set you up so you get that last little uppercut in there. I wanted you to come in, do a little head movement, and then bam, you know, I had to give a little setup there.
No, he single bill. I paid every single bill. He refused to work.
Hey, okay, and which I'm sure is a part of the manipulation. So I got a follow up for you. While you guys were in the relationship, what other manipulative tactics did you see him like deploy on other people? Right, I noticed that he likes to talk a lot of shit behind people's back, but you know, what was he doing that you saw as manipulative behavior to, you know, those else around him?
My family was a big one. He would manipulate the story toward, or he would manipulate to my family what was going on. He would manipulate. He actually would contact my command and make lies. You are contacting a top secret command, and he found an email. I don't know how, and he was contacting my command saying, "Catarina's doing this, that, and this, that." And of course, they're like, first of all, of course, they didn't believe him, but they're just like, he needs to stop contacting us or we're going to punish you. And I was just like, I have nothing to do with this. Like, but he would manipulate, also like fans and such. And like, for example, if people came at him, about just anything to do with maybe the past or whatever, he would of course lie, saying nothing is going on, nothing happened. So I would just say as a whole, my family, my commands, and fans, just the general public altogether.
And again, isolating, and we pointed to that earlier, the isolation from your support system, from the people that could potentially get you out of there. That is another trait of those that exhibit this type of behavior. So another red flag for those of you out there. Isolation's a big one for cults and for abusive behavior.
Oh, so going off of that, so when he would do the back and forth thing where it's like he would abuse me and then like the next day or something he would buy me like a gift, or he'd make me like a nice dinner, or he would reward me for not doing anything. And so like, because in the moment that he'd be abusing me, he would make sure my phone was nowhere near me. He would either throw it or he would hide it or that type of stuff, so I could neither call the cops or my family for help. And of course, if I tried to, he would either beat me more, or he would kill me, or he would bring weapons to me, like put a knife to my throat or something of the sort, to make sure that in that moment I didn't report anything. And then once he was doing the whole like I'm a good guy mode, you know, it gave me that falsified hope where I was just like, well, thank God I didn't say anything to anyone, or else I would have lost my husband, type of thing.
Do you know of any other stories of Mikey pressing a knife to someone's neck? And I asked that because I had two people come to me with stories that I couldn't confirm, and they claim that Mikey's held knives to people's throats, or that he's at least bragged about it.
No, not that I know of.
It's very strange. Not the type of behavior you want to fucking brag about. Has Mikey ever been to jail?
So what happened was that, so that's a tricky thing because I never pressed charges against him. Actually, the city itself pressed charges against him, and he didn't go to jail, but he had to do like, I think around 80 weeks of domestic violence, like classes. So like once a week for like 80 weeks, he had to do like classes and such. And I think because I think the department itself may have looked at it like, well, since the wife isn't pressing charges, even though we have pictures of her body covered in bruises, it might not look well as far as in court, because I never went to court and he never went to court as far as that issue. But from what I know, the only thing that he did legally wise was do those classes.
While you were married and living together, were you scared to be around him?
Oh, all the time. Even when I was deployed, I was so scared of him. And the reason it was because one, my cat Bella was around at the time. Two, the safety of my belongings, because he would threaten to destroy them. And I feared, and I just feared overall anything that he would try to do while I wasn't home. And then also when I was deployed, he would do everything in his power to harass me. I mean, we're talking about like if I didn't call him the moment I landed from flying, he would lose his shit. And now I want to say, like, as far as a post flight, we're talking about like I have to do the walk arounds, I have to make sure the jet is in check. There are certain dailies that we had to do as far as maintenance. We would probably be out there for an hour or maybe a couple hours. And you can't have your phone on a top secret fucking jet. Duh. And so it's not like that. So, but the moment that, you know, I was like in the barracks, like he would call me literally 50 times, hundreds of messages, just going back and forth of like, I love you, I'm so sorry, to like, I fucking hate you, you're the worst, you're a cheater, you're this. It was always back and forth. So, and if I shut off my phone, it got even worse. And and it was constantly like, I don't remember when I started doing the blocking of the numbers, but when I did start blocking the numbers that were contacting me through him, because he went through an app, I'm serious, he made around about 30 to 40 different phone numbers to contact me, to harass me. And of course, like, for example, like I couldn't just turn off my service. And if I turned off my phone, that was making it an issue, because if for any reason one of the chiefs or one of the officers had to call me saying, we need to get on the jet right now, it was a safety as well as a job hinder if I turned off my phone. So the majority of time, at all times, I was supposed to have it on. So that way someone could call me and be like, we need to get the jet right now, or whatever the case was. So no, he, even on deployment or at home, he did everything in his life to make my life a living hell completely.
So you can't even go to work and be in peace. Like, he's literally costing you your job, harassing you at probably the worst workplace to harass someone at, a top secret military installation.
Well, and it was the worst because I would have to go to work each day with a brave face. I had to be uppity and smiley because I'm the type of person where not only do I hide it, but I like to make sure everyone around me feels positive, because then it makes me get through the day. So I was just always smiling and laughing. And then the moment I would be like in my, if I was deployed, if I was ever in my barracks, like it got to the point where he was stressing me out so much, I actually felt physically ill. Like I actually started getting ill, where I was having stomach issues, I was having migraines, I was throwing up from the anxiety, and the depression. I was getting cold shakes, I was getting stuff of that sort. And then like me being at work, he was just constantly harassing me. And I couldn't have my phone on me at times because we had to go on the flight line and do some maintenance. And if I didn't reply to him the moment I got home, I basically got my punishment.
Jesus. When you finally get away from something like that, what are like the lasting effects that you feel? Were you relieved, or did other emotions and issues start to creep in?
I just want to say, because that when you said relieved, it actually kind of is a fucked up thing. Actually, after he would abuse me, I felt relieved once he was done. Once he was done abusing me for the night or that day, I felt relieved, because like it would actually be to the point, it was such a norm that he would abuse me all the time, that night we would watch The Office and we would go to bed. Now, there was a lot of nights that he would keep me up all through the night because he knew I had to fly that morning, or he was just in his head feel like some sort of confrontation he wanted to cause. So there would be many nights I didn't get any sleep, so I have to go straight to work and have like a long 12 to 14 hour day at work, and I come home and it'd just be a continuous cycle. But it would just be the norm, where it was fucked up. As I said, it was a sense of relief if I didn't die that day, or he was too tuckered out from doing all of it.
You mentioned that you assisted him in trying to get help. To first start off, what are some other lengths that you've gone to? So what did you go through to try to get him the help that you thought he may need?
So I just want to say, for him to have the fucking audacity to say, my wife never loved me, she never cared about me, she was all these type of things, but I never once pressed charges on you, because in my mind, I was like, first of all, that there was something going on with him. I said, because before I even went in the military, I worked with people with disabilities for a couple of years. So I thought this behavior and these actions were stemming from something that wasn't being processed or was treated. So not only did I not press charges, but I felt like I had an oath to our marriage, because we took vows that I needed to protect him at all costs. So I gave him the opportunity in which he went through, and we just discussed that. Of course, he didn't even take it seriously. I put him through treatment. And as far as legal issues, as far as when I had to do the emergency mandated BPO because my command made it, where I had to do that. Once I had that opportunity to get rid of it, I did immediately just so I could be with my husband. It was just like the most conflicting feeling where I was like, I'm so afraid of him, but I'm so desperate to be around him because I'm like, he's my husband. Like, I don't understand why why he's doing this. So it was a very, very tug of war type of thing. So yeah, I did everything in my power to protect him from legal issues from other people, because online, again, people would, run his name through the mud. And as much as like behind closed doors, he was doing stuff to me, I was so protective and be like, you don't know my husband. Like, you don't know the full story. Yeah. I did everything in my power to make sure Mikey had the glamorous life that he wanted.
What just real quick follow-up, what kind of help do you think he needs? I mean, psychiatric, does he need?
He needs to go to fucking jail. He needs to go to jail. He needs his ass raped in jail.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair.
I've been saying jail for quite a while.
That's definitely a form of, help, I guess, right? Getting just railed.
See, at this point, no, he doesn't need help. Michael doesn't need help because I tried and I tried and I tried. He doesn't need help. He needs discipline. He needs to pay for his actions because he has gotten away with all these actions, not even just me, but others for years. He's gotten away with it. And I think he just needs to full on go to jail and pay for his time. And he needs that huge reality check because it's kind of like, well, I can get away with it. So why not continue these type of ways? No, you need to go to jail. Guaranteed.
Devil's advocate. The reason last part, what did you say?
Your ass beat. And here's the thing. I never once beat Michael's ass, and I am much bigger than him. I am taller than him, and I am much stronger. My body for a living.
That's one of the first things that stood out when we spoke. You said that you wanted to honor your marriage and your vows, and that really stuck with me, not just in the terms of the situation we're talking here, but like, man, when you get married, you got to be really serious about these fucking vows. Like, the guy did all wrong, and you still tried to help him to the 0 hour. I applaud you. I mean, that's insane. It's crazy.
That's why slap in the face, because he came out after we got divorced. He made Wedding Night, the album, and he did that as a slap in my face. And then he sent me a song. I didn't listen to the album, but he sent me a song, and he was like, see, you never cared about me, you never loved me, and I made a song about you. I'm gonna embarrass you, I'm gonna ruin your life. He always, even throughout our entire marriage, always threatened me time and time again. He's like, I'm gonna ruin your life. And he did, because he ruined my job. I lost my job in the military and my clearance because of him. I lost everything I worked for because of him and what he did.
I agree on the jail sentiment. I've been saying that for a while. What's really heartbreaking too is people that know about his allegations and the abuse that he's done, they still at the end of the day say he needs help. They're not trying to be vengeful until it's like they're actually the ones that have been wronged, and they still think that there's fixing him. And I believe in miracles. I believe shit can happen. But you know what? He's a 28-year-old man who still chooses today, to this day, up into a couple hours ago, to still harass and troll to silence us. He never wanted to come clean. He never wanted to apologize. You made a good point that when we were speaking a couple days ago, he has affected so many lives that he probably has so many victims that he couldn't even possibly begin to take inventory of how many lives he's affected. And you couldn't, because that person couldn't sleep at night. So I'm sure he lies to himself, like he's been doing in all these DMs I've seen, that he's not the bad guy. I think we know the truth that he is the bad guy. With all this threats of suing me for slander and defamation, has Mikey ever sued anyone?
No.
Has does he own a gun?
From what I know, no, I don't think he does.
I only ask that because nothing indicates that he does. My investigators didn't find anything registered to him, but he does claim to super fans that he owns, quote, a bunch of guns. He doesn't tell me this because I think it would be construed as a threat, but he has told some fans who have sent me the screenshots. That's definitely weird.
I mean, bought illegal guns because if there's no title to his name, because what happens here in Oklahoma, and I don't know about other states, you have to have a background check, and then you can buy a gun in which the title is in your name. If you have a gun with no title to your name, a lot of times, from what I know, is that that's highly illegal.
I hope that's not the case. We spoke a little bit about it, but what is Mikey's relationship with James Adams?
Okay, so actually, I was friends with James, and that's how I met Mikey. James and I went to the Outline in Color Misfortune show because they were the headbands, and so I knew James first, and James has been a super fan of Mikey. So currently, right now, we're the relationship that James and Michael has is Michael is using James because he is autistic and OCD. And the reason I know that is because when I lived at the house that they live in still currently to this day, Mikey forced James to go. Okay, so James lives in a house that his parents pay for because they live, or his dad is in the oil business. So all bills are paid as far as this house. James, James is such a super fan of Mikey that he lets Mikey stay in the master bedroom that has, a bathroom, a walk-in closet, and that type of stuff. And James lives in the guest bedroom downstairs. And James has also built a studio in the house in which Mikey uses, of course, all that studio equipment. And Mikey, when we were living together still at that house, Mikey told me, he's like, James is literally fucking retarded. Like, duh. Like, that's why I took the room, because he doesn't know any better. And he's a super fan of me. Like, that dude would literally suck my dick if I let him. And da-da-da. And of course, me hearing this, I was like, okay, first, oh my God. But I didn't know how to like go to James and just be like, this is what Mikey said. Because again, I didn't want to deal with the drama. I already had so much drama happening. And it was just like, okay, so out of appreciation, because the parents would come to, or specifically the mom would come to the house once in a while to make sure everything was okay. And to show my appreciation for living there, I would deep clean this house and just clean and tidy up the house all the time. To just keep everything good. So that way when the mom came through, she wouldn't kick me and Mikey out. Because Mikey wasn't paying any bills, of course. So why would we live in this household where James is supposed to be living technically by himself and to show the mom, like, hey, we're responsible adults to live in this household. So I made sure it was clean at all times so she wouldn't kick us out. And of course, Mikey would put on the whole like soft voice, like, oh, we took the master bedroom because we're a couple and we needed room and we really appreciate it. You guys are the best. Like, he would just play that whole type of thing. But the fact that he blatantly was just like making fun of James for his mental state and stuff of that sort, I was just, it's absolutely disgusting. So to this day, he still uses James.
Some fans believe that his friendship with James is flaunted publicly and on social media so that Mikey looks like a better person for having a friend with a disability. Mm-hmm. Could you think that is plausible at all?
Absolutely. Mikey is an opportunist. I think Mikey takes these opportunities as far as anything he can grab hold of to make himself look better. He very much will. And that's because he's told me. Even when we were married, he would brag about that all the time, where he would just like, he would do this, that, and this, and that, and this, and that to make himself look better. So.
I was told that James and Mikey, they have a ton of social media accounts, troll accounts, burner accounts, and that they spend all day combating, quote, the lies against Mikey. Do you know that to be true? And do you know if Mikey is aware, or if James is aware of these allegations against Mikey?
Yes, James is very aware from what I could guess, because, you can't just live with someone and just not know about these things, because if James is going out and trying to defend Michael, of course he has to know about it. I think, of course, Mikey again is taking full advantage of James, and he's gonna basically make James a puppet and make James go also say these things. I think it's a combination where James himself is defending Mikey, and I think it's also Mikey's telling James to also say these things. Very much a combination of both.
That lovely imposter Twitter account we had pop up last week that started harassing our followers. Here's a little proof. Am I making fake accounts? No. Who cares if I did? I guess. No law enforcement or legal remedies are doing shit. I'm taking action on my own. I have to poke holes in his reputation between now and then. Yeah, so that's why a fake Twitter account popped up trying to discredit us. Because they don't...
comes at you and says, you're a stupid channel, you're not this and this and that. But he's the most intimidated by you. All the actions that he's done as of recently, he has never done in the past, as far as like trying to protect his name more than anything from a channel. Because if you think about it, it's just like, if you're not intimidated or worried about something, you don't make an effort to protect yourself. You're just kind of like, I have nothing to protect. I have nothing to try to defend myself about because there's no issues. The fact that you're making a conscious effort constantly to just address these things and bring light to it, he very much knows, and he is scared, and he's trying everything in his power to protect his name because he knows things are going to come to light. And I think the funny thing about it is, especially like for people like me who know everything about the story, have never said anything. So now that this is also coming to light, he's probably more like, oh shit, like wow, I never thought to this day this was going to happen. And since it is now all at once hitting him in the face, he's trying every tactic possible to protect himself.
Yeah, well, I've had a few people tell me that they've never seen Mikey do these things. One thing that I think actually backfired on him was about 3 or 4 times this week, and including right now, Mikey Sawyer Music on Instagram and Misfortune Official have both been switched to private. 2 things that people said he's never done, because especially now more than ever, he's so desperate for the likes and the follows and the engagement that he would never set his profile to private so you couldn't see the goodies to then like and follow his band. His back is up against the wall. He tried calling one of my closest friends that I've known for like 13 years, begged him to get on a conference call so we could form a truce. And I told him straight up, there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing we can hash out by talking, because after I found out all this stuff, it's not about me and how I feel about him. We have a civic duty to tell these stories that people literally told me they were too afraid to speak up for. So let me do it. If he sues me, if he comes to my house, let him do it. It's better he do it to me and let me go crazy than harass any of these girls or any of these young victims. That's the last thing we want. We're trying to empower victims here.
Right, and also the other fact is, like, of course, I know where he lives right now. And, I mean, here's another thing. Like, if I really wanted to just, like, go berserk and go after Mikey, I could. But, of course, like, nothing good comes out of it. And so for him to, like, for example, like, make all these empty threats, like, as far as maybe even with you and that type of stuff, Mikey he is not a fighter, bro. Like, he is a weak-ass bitch. He's always going to be a weak-ass bitch. He doesn't have, it's so funny, he has the balls to do everything else, but actually go front to front with someone. He has all the balls behind closed doors and behind a keyboard to do all this type of slander and threatening and such. But when it comes to actually face-to-face, he will not do it. He will not do it. If anything, he will try to sucker up and be like, again, with his cute little voice, he'd be like, I'm so sorry. I mean it. And stuff of that sort, because I've seen him do it before. So.
He definitely tried it to me. He does not like being called Michael since he legally changed his name, and when I called him that, it must have really pissed him off because he keeps referring to me as Matthew. Just insane. One of the things, like you said, he doesn't face people face to face. He doesn't want to fight, that sort of thing. I wanted the harassment and the trolling to end, so when I got a hold of James' phone number and called him and told him the harassment ends today or I'll ruin your fucking lives, he wants to turn that into a criminal threat, which it's not. God. Oh man, I had his address, never posted that publicly. He tried to do it to me. It's just the most immature game of pissing contest. Um, what more do you know about Mikey bullying and intimidating his victims?
I remember when he first contacted me and we talked. I didn't know anything up to that point because I, of course, had no knowing of a Mikey because, of course, you don't care to know. You're just like, I want nothing to do with that life. That's a past part of my life, and I want nothing to do with it. It wasn't until you contacted me and you started showing me, and then I started seeing all these different things I keep doing. Like, that's all I know up to this day. That's what, because for this time, I had nothing to do with him. But I do know this. So he does do a whole bowling thing. There was a gentleman back when he used to be in Outline and Color. He was enemies with Mikey, and this enemy very much took advantage of me and basically told Mikey, I used your wife to get at you and all this type of stuff. So there was also the sense of like, there was also other people in a way, for me personally, they were bullying me or using me to kind of get at Mikey. And then Mikey was the other way around where he was only getting in contact with me to just be like, how dare you do this and da da da. So as far as
They're
like,
using you as a tool to hurt each other.
yes, which I think is absolutely fucked up.
Yeah. Jesus. Brian, go ahead, man.
So, and again, I know the situations are tough to revisit. What was the last straw ultimately? Like, what was the breaking point when you were like, this is it, I'm done. I'm doing whatever I need to do to get out, get away, get the restraining order. Do you have a moment?
I would say the last point as far as having any type of connection, because even after we were divorced, we had nothing to do with each other. And then there was a time where he reached out to me and he was like, Kat, I've changed. I'm so sorry for everything I did. I would at least like to be cool with you. And I believed it. So I gave him a chance and I hung out with him a couple times. But the last straw that I had with Mikey was that whole thing, because he confronted me. He was like, how dare you be with my enemy and that type of stuff. Like, that's the ultimate slap in the face. Like, you're a bitch. You've always been a whore. Like, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, Mikey, I'm done. We're never gonna hang out again, because the fact that this person, like, it's just the whole fucking situation in itself is so fucked up. This dude took advantage, because at this time I was also in a very vulnerable state, because I myself decided for once to get help and get treatment. And so once I started getting treatment and help, this gentleman, he was also like, hey, like, I have bipolar disorder as well. I've also been an addict, because in the past I was an addict. Like, I had a lot of personal issues and I have mental illness myself. So I was getting help, and this guy took advantage of it. He was like, oh, by the way, when Mikey was trash talking you, I was protecting you and you didn't know. I've always admired you. I've always respected you. I want nothing but the best for you. If anything, I would like to be your man and protect you. I believed it. I believed every single word. And all he did was then proceed to sleep with me. And then after that, he just basically pushed me off the face of the earth. And I was just like, what is going on? And I was so desperate to kind of be like, with the gentleman, I was like so desperate that I was like blowing up his phone. I was like, what is going on? Like, and I've never done this. I blew up his phone, and I was just like, what did I do wrong? Like, I'm so confused now. Like, you brought me into this, and da 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 da. And he blocked me. And then Mikey proceeding that, there was a 3-way call. And this is what Mikey told me. Mikey told me there was a 3-way call between Sinjin, who is the manager. So it's Trevor.
Oh, I fucking hate Sinjin.
Sinjin, this guy, who's like his name, and Mikey. And from what Mikey told me, the guy was just like, yeah, I just used your wife to get at you. Ha ha ha. Like, da da da. And I was like, you literally, both of you, first of all, completely inappropriate, totally fucked up, inhumane to a degree, because literally preceding that, and I told Matthew this, I tried to commit suicide the following day. And it was a very serious thing, because that was just so degrading. And Mikey, instead of like, and I was crying to Mikey when he told me this, I was like, you need to understand that I believed what he was saying. And Mikey, instead of like being just at least a little bit empathetic, he was just like, I don't give a fuck. He was like, fuck your tears. He was like, how dare you be with him? And I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm so done. And we were fighting about this actually at a friend's house of mine. We all went out, and I invited Mikey out to go hang out with us. And that was because like I was just like, he seemed cool, he was being respectful towards me, so I invited him out. And then at the friend's house, in the guy's actual bedroom, we had that fight. And I was just like, whatever. But unfortunately, since I was still intoxicated, I was like, can you just take me home? And actually that night he did sleep in my bed. Like, of course we didn't do anything, but he slept in my bed. And then I drove, and it was in my car, so I drove him all the way back to his car, in which was James's car. And then he went home. And then from then on, I was just like, I want nothing to do with him, because I was like, I gave him a chance, and he's never going to change. He's just not going to change. And for that factor, I was like, that's insane. Like, he was not even empathetic at all, to the degree that I was so hurt by that.
Jesus.
Crazy. Well, I'm glad you didn't go through with the suicide attempt, right? I feel like it's a sign of strength. Obviously, you are a survivor, of course, but it's also it goes to show like your determination. You know, especially letting someone like that get the ultimate upper hand. You're not about to let that happen at all. So.
Nope, and that was definitely something I had to, of course, learn. And I mean, as far as other people that have gone through this, they also something that they're going to have to learn themselves. I mean, you can get any amount of help, but you have to for sure talk to yourself and understand, like, hey, people are going to hurt you in this world, and that's going to happen inevitably. But at the same time, don't you ever for yourself hurt yourself because of their actions, because that's right. They will win. Because if you're really thinking about it, let's just it wouldn't make a difference. It would have made a difference to Mikey, and it never would. I bet you, honestly, he would have actually taken that as an advantage and been like, oh my God, my ex-wife killed herself. Like, watch me sob.
Yeah, let's be real.
You would have been his cry for attention, and the whole next album would have been about you.
Yep.
I guarantee it. Yeah, never a good day when I hear St. John's name muttered on the podcast. What was your reaction to the stories about Tyler Carter and Mikey?
So, when I said, as far as like right in the beginning of our conversation where Mikey had the picture of Tyler Carter and such, Mikey did tell me the stories about like how him and Tyler were sleeping in the same bed, how Tyler initiated sexual acts, and Mikey, instead of being like, no, what the fuck, like, that's no, he was just like, well, you know, not right now, or you know, like, he would almost like in a way like push it like to another time to do it, or stuff of that sort. So that's all he really disclosed to me. But the fact that he saw naked photos of Tyler was very, very strange. And not only that, the fact that Tyler and him would also continue to talk, like the one time where I saw Tyler Carter for the first time when they were playing at the Vanguard in Tulsa. Tyler Carter even pulled me up on stage and took pictures with me and that type of stuff. And that preceding that night, he contacted Mikey. And again, this is in Mikey's words, that Tyler hit him up and he was like, hey, I met your ex-wife tonight. So it was weird that he already knew who I was. And then he was like, so what's up? Like, we should hang out. I'm in town, and like stuff of that sort.
Just slid right into the DMs, huh? Just fucking right back in. All right. Well, I mean, that whole situation was a weird one. That's honestly what initially started this, was the Tyler Carter thing. And, you know, for you to say, hey, You know, I didn't really get too many details, but apparently he never said no. That's what we got, man. And that was something that I pointed to the abusive behavior. Like you're toying with them, you're toying with someone's emotions. And when you're able to do that, that shows signs of manipulation. You're manipulating someone into whatever weird way you want to twist them into it. But that's what I saw in that. And he, again, I don't know if it's the attention or the sociopathic behaviors or what it is from him, but he clearly needs people to be paying attention to him. And when asked about being abused, he went as far as to say, yeah, I sent him dick pictures. Yeah, I sent him nudes. And we laughed about it. And it was funny. And I told him no the first time. And then the second time, I didn't really tell him no because I wanted to be his friend. And I wanted, of course, to be around him because he's Tyler Carter. You're blatantly exhibiting and basically giving us the blueprint to how you work your manipulation. You want people to feed off of who you are and your power, and it's fucking weird, man. And I just, again, I don't know where to even go with it.
The top comment on this screenshot: he's just mad because Tyler told us he sucked his dick and liked it. That's it. That was from months back when we originally reacted to that entire story. I have two final questions before we wrap this up. We're obviously not going to ask what kind of help Mikey needs since we've gone over that. Do you think someone with Mikey's abusive past should have a platform or a fan base?
Absolutely not. He is a danger, especially to young fans. The impression that he gives or what he tries to portray is nothing but a falsified identity. And because of that, he is a huge danger on this platform. I mean, we're talking about a predator, an abuser, a liar, everything as a disgusting human is. And I do worry that, you know, as far as the past things that he has done, as far as to victims, I do very much worry that, you know, randomly he might hit up, maybe even randomly, like right now, he might hit up a random young girl and be like, hey, like, you know, just only from what you know, I'm a great guy, like, do you want to get together and that stuff? Because he showed me the text, and I even saw it online too, where he would tell these girls like, well, you know, like, it's not like I'm gonna drug you or anything. I mean, as far like he was talking about like how he was gonna rape them and like all this type of stuff, and like how he was also like, I don't need to drug you because of this because I'm a rock star, so it's not technically rape.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Do you think record labels and management are correct in staying away from him, like artists similar to Johnny Craig, Austin Carlisle, Front Porch Step, whoever it may be? You think they're right to stay away from Mikey?
Absolutely, for safety reasons, and also for, it's a company, it's a business. Why would you bring in a tainted individual or a tainted representation into your business? No one would allow that. So no, as a record label, absolutely not.
Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, the whole point to come on here and tell these stories is not only giving you the platform I think that you've needed, that you hadn't had before, to speak the story, but we want to empower other women and other victims to come forward because we know how bad the bullying and the suppression is. I mean, it's all up to the victims and their strength. We've gone through the harassment and the trolling the past couple weeks. It's a lot of empty threats. The people that even gave me information and the screenshots I provided tonight were begging me not to have their identities, you know, revealed. So all the messages have the names and the profile pictures removed. So they have been doctored in that sense. I have people begging me not to tell them because they're in fear for the family that they live with, saying that they stay with little brothers and they need to watch out for them. And they're states away from where Mikey lives, and yet they're still in fear. So it tells me that this is legit. When people started coming forward and telling us stories and basically reaffirming that what we're doing is the right move, that we're doing something correct here, there was no backing down. This ain't about me anymore. This is about the social issue at hand. It's about the victims and the survivors. And it's about outing a predator in our music scene that is going to ruin it for everyone. She's right. Mikey shouldn't have a platform. He shouldn't have a record label. He doesn't. No record label will touch him. We Are Triumphant. They were the last label to sign him. If anyone knows about We Are Triumphant, they're pretty much your last stop. They're not going to do a ton for bands. We reached out to them to get a comment. I have the screenshot somewhere. They didn't want to say really anything about Mikey. Boom. We have no comments at this time. Thanks, though. Well, that's unfortunate because there won't be another time because I don't know when he's going to be relevant. We definitely don't plan to continue speaking on him. I know that we did upset a lot of Instagram followers with all the screenshots, but I think the transparency that we showed was very necessary in all of this. Catarina, if you could speak to any of his victims out there, what would you tell them as a survivor yourself?
I would say the most blatant, thing is that you have to, I mean, I'm trying to find the best way to word this. It's the fact to identify these certain characteristics as far as abusers. And once, I think, of course, like anything like Mikey, as far as him trying to prey and use every single tactic in order to get people not only to believe him on his side, but take advantage, of course, them maybe even into a predatory wise. I would say guard yourself. Don't always believe everything you hear. And it's such a gray area when it comes to abusers. I mean, they're very smart. I mean, abusers are actually very, very smart. They are very smart people, and they know exactly to each certain victim, they will learn who you are and they will learn exactly how to abuse. I mean, physicality or sexually or emotionally, that will come with it. But these abusers, they have a tactical system in which they know exactly how to adapt to each victim in order to basically believe in them so they can take advantage of them. I would say, especially with Mikey, I mean, there's a reason why his own mother wouldn't let his little sister be around him or contact him. And there's also another reason why Mikey was never allowed to see his daughter. So, he is a predator all the way, and he is just an overall concern to anyone's safety completely.
For people in the positions that you found yourself in, it is kind of hard to recognize those signs. Is there any self-help little tips that you can give for someone that was there, right? Obviously, you are going to take a certain amount of abuse. You are going to put up with it for a certain amount of time. But is there anything you can suggest, whoever it may be, male or female, maybe some working on yourself, working on your own happiness, maybe finding hobbies, support groups, something like that? Is there maybe some suggestions you could give?
Absolutely. I would say, first off, don't ever be afraid to reach out to authorities and take action. They are there to protect you. Second of all, as far as actually dealing with the trauma of it, there is absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever to reaching out for a support system for any type of treatment whatsoever, as far as coping skills, coping mechanisms, identifying certain factors as far as when yourself or from the abuser, and none of it was your fault, because a lot of times victims will blame themselves for the situation. And I would say, especially as a female, if in any time, shape, or possible, or any time that there is a situation where they are starting to any degree become physical with you, that is a leading point. If they start to, as far as abuse, it comes in many different forms. So even if someone is slandering you, or even like coming at you as far as disrespect, like being like, you're a fucking bitch or this or that, that's emotional abuse in itself. That is verbal abuse in itself. I would say to any factor, if you're a male or female and your partner or someone else is not honoring you, respecting you, protecting you, and overall just making sure you as a whole, your health overall is not tended to, that is a person very much so that is the biggest factor of selfishness, and they will do everything in their power to get what they want, and they will trample over anyone that they can. If you are a past victim of abuse to any degree, also realize when you start to get help, or you start to kind of look within yourself as far as what it was about, processing it, understanding it, coming to terms with it. Understand that not every single person that you meet is going to be the same type of person they are. you know, when you are a victim, you start to have that very grounded belief that everyone else is going to be like that. That is not true. There are many, many wonderful people in this world that will never come anywhere near to doing that to you. And that might take some time in itself to come to realize. But if you are a victim, never once were you the reasoning as far as a fault. You were no fault whatsoever. And you deserve every bit to have your story heard. You will have a support system behind you. And anyone that goes against that support, they themselves have an issue with themselves, or they do not understand, or they're just blatantly disrespectful. So don't ever be afraid to say what you need to say, because if someone ever, even for example, a legal reason wants to come at you for like this whole situation, the same legal, really like you're, you know, basically Mikey's saying like you're slandering my name, that's not going to happen. Again,
Also adding the you know, regardless, male, female, no shame. I think if you are a victim of abuse out there and you've you know suffered it, there's no reason to be ashamed. And again, speaking out, I think, is one of the best things you could do. And Catarina, those are all great points. And I hope if anybody out there that hears this, comes across this, can take those words to heart and actually use them.
they deserve that piece. And again, especially for males, I want to say this one thing about male, especially with males who go through abuse. First of all, it is not okay if a woman lays her hands on you at any time. It is not okay if a woman is too verbally abusive either. I think guys are more tolerable, or they let it slide because they think that they should just deal with it. It's the same thing with males, and I have a lot of respect for males when it comes to it, where if they endure that, they just take it, and that's not okay. So it's exactly, there's no shame with males, and the same thing, they deserve just as much help, and they deserve just as much respect for their story.
And just not a separate point, but kind of separate, also connected to your story, though. If you know, if we think this is an issue within the music scene, you may know of the issue that it is in the military as well, and this is something that also happens very frequently. So again, abuse, it comes, and it is there, and you know, people may ignore it to an extent, and that may be a reason why people don't speak out. But I think with you know shedding light on these types of stories and these events, it's only going to make more people more comfortable. You know, and it's going to, I think, usher in some real change in some areas, and I think we're seeing that.
Yep.
My experience with this story has shown me 100% why women are unable to come forward with their abuse, with sexual assaults. I understand it 100% now. This is something I couldn't wrap my mind around about 15 years ago when I was an immature high school student, but man, we've been harassed and bullied all week, and we're not even women or victims of this shit. It's insane. Couple comments I didn't get to read aloud. The fact this guy has any level of platform is a complete shock to me. Good job here. Yeah, it is a shock. He still has a platform, even though his music career is dwindling down. He's DIY, you know, home studio, so he's going to keep pumping out stuff. It's up to people like us to bring awareness, so no one's supporting the guy. Thanks for sharing your stories, Catarina. You're a strong woman. And love you, Kitty. I'm proud of you.
That's my best. I grew up with her.
Couple friends in there. This guy is a monster, dude. Yeah, he definitely is. Wow, this has been a tough episode to put together, to plan, to navigate. This is uncharted territory for us. We're usually cracking awful jokes and making fun of bands, and this was just this is something that needed to be done. This was a social issue we need to tackle. I'm so stoked we were able to give a platform to you. Do you have any parting words for us, Catarina? Maybe any words for Mikey? We were told he was going to be watching the live stream.
Mikey, suck a dick.
Ooh.
Well, that was pretty close to the sentiments I had.
And also, if Mikey's trying to fight anyone, he can come catch these hands.
Come catch these hands, baby. Let's go. Give us a flex. You're fucking jacked, girl. Give us a flex.
No, I haven't worked out in like 3
Give us one, though. You can give us one. You can give us something. Come on, girl. Let me see something.
Wow, you're going to pressure her.
Hey, I'm just trying to show off the strength. That's all. Just the strength. That's all I'm trying to do.
No, but yeah. So, but yeah. Say, Mikey, you're a little bitch, and if you're trying to fight anyone, you know that I still live in the area. I will fuck your ass up. So
Oof.
And I know where you live.
Oof. Salty. Dropping it.
Hopefully this is the end of it. I say that because I hope that
Oh, it is. We're not
Mikey's I hope Mikey's done. I hope the career's over. The only time you're gonna hear us speak on that motherfucker again is if we need to lend a platform to another victim. And I would love to do that. In the meantime, he's not gonna get any publicity on this show. He is dead to me, dead to the world, dead to the scene, and now we're gonna watch the lies and the bullshit ensue when his accounts come off private. I want to thank everyone this week who shared the flyer, who provided a story, who talked about the abuse that they sustained at the hands of Mikey Sawyer, and they couldn't speak up about it. I'm glad we could speak to it a little bit on the show. And, you know, if these types of things keep happening, I have no problem outing predators. And if it's going to plague our music scene, then maybe this is something we need to do. But I would hate for this to become a routine thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of sad. Any parting words, Catarina? Where can they find you on social media if you want to give that out? Any projects? I don't think you have a band to promote.
No, no. So my social media is just Catarina Jongeward, my first and last name. Actually, starting in July, me and my significant other Gabriel, we were actually starting a podcast ourselves. So whenever that comes out, I mean, yeah, we're gonna promote it. But as far as projects, it's that, and then also I will be starting an art channel on YouTube. It'll be short films due to writing. So that's the only things I have as far as planned for myself.
What's the podcast going to be about?
It's going to be a combination of so Gabriel, my partner, he is a very, very, very intellectual person. So we're just going to have some random talks, some funny talks, getting high sometimes, having a talk about serious things, maybe some of my stories, some of his. It's just going to just almost a fascinating podcast in itself.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be a smart show. We've never executed anything like
that. Smart shows are popular. Matt doesn't like them a whole lot. I like them. Matt doesn't, but it's okay.
It's like we're gonna do like almost like the attitude of H3. That's on YouTube. I love.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Brian, where can they find you?
You can find me at Of Brian of Death on Instagram and the tweet. That's right, Of Brian of Death. And you can find my smart podcast, the Common Chaos podcast, at The Common Chaos right down here. You can also find it at commonchaos.net. And you can listen to it on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google if they still do podcasts, all that other fun stuff.
All right, slow it down. You didn't pay for advertising on any of that shit.
You did awesome, Brian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can find... Yeah, go look up Brian. You can find me on Instagram at IHATETHESCENE. That's where I've been posting all the screenshots of the harassment we've sustained at the hands of Mikey Sawyer. So check that out. We've documented a lot of it there. Transparency, not defensive. You can also check out my Twitter, often imitated, never duplicated. IH8TE the scene. I'm gonna say that again because there was an imposter. IH the number 8 TE the scene because some dumb son of a bitch stole the actual gamer tag we wanted to use.
We realized that it was Mikey Sawyer, so yeah, he was the dumb bitch that stole the tag.
Yeah, it's him. Fuck that guy.
We're good.
Why you such a dumb bitch?
You can also check out our stream live on twitch.tv/IHateTheScene. Soon enough, we'll be back on Facebook.com/IHateTheScene if they want to, write the checkout. And as always, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you follow us on YouTube.com/C/IHateTheScene. You can find all of these links on IHateTheScene.com. Rate, review, subscribe, unsubscribe, re-rate, re-review. Catarina, thank you so much for coming on here and tackling a difficult subject with us. It means the world, and we're super stoked to have done it.
Appreciate you, Catarina.
Guys, so much. It was just as much of a blast talking with you guys.
Awesome.
Have to have you back on sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally for it.
Go.
And Mikey Sawyer can eat that fat dick.
Yes.
Hope you regret every bad decision you've ever made, dude. Jesus Christ. Check us out next week, episode 42. Love you.